You look very professional.
This is, well, yeah, I am still working. I mean, that is still a work day for me. So,
Do you? So are you at your office, or do you work from? Did you work from home with COVID and all that stuff?
no, I never, I mean, I guess I had some opportunities to be able to work from home, but my office isn't really geared towards that. And so it wasn't really, I mean, I could have, but the rest of my staff wasn't going to. And so I didn't really feel like that would have been appropriate for me to work from home, but not for them.
You're like you assholes have to come into work. I'm gonna be at my house all the time.
Yeah. So I've been, going to court and everything, but all the court is basically virtual. So it could have been, on the video or even just telephonic. And so, yeah, I mean, for me, I could have done a lot just from home. But like I said, some of the things that we do, we needed people in our office. And so I thought it would be best if I was in the office, particularly so I could, be a little bit of a problem solver here.
Yeah,
So,
just to keep the normal. Like anytime anyone could keep things normal, like during all this crap, it's just been like, thank God. Like just anyone who even wants to keep things normal, you know.
I know it's been, yeah, it's been weird. I mean, particularly, I mean, what I used to do. I mean, I was going to court. I mean, every single day, and so I was driving. I mean, and here in Phoenix, I end up dealing with a lot of these different justice courts. We've got somewhere around 30 different justice courts in the county here. A lot of them are co-located, but not all of them. And so I ended up spending half of my day at least just driving around to try to get to different courts. One of the nice things about it all being virtual is I don't have to do that. I just end up just sitting in my office chair doing absolutely nothing, just calling in. But so I mean, there's some good and bad about that.
All right, we got a couple of people watching now. Do you want to introduce yourself? Kind of give a little background, whatever you feel comfortable sharing. Kind of.
Yeah, no. So I don't really go by an alias, on my Twitter or anything else. My online presence is kind of who I am. I'm Thayne Collimore. I'm an attorney. I live and work in Phoenix, Arizona. I like to say I'm libertarian leaning. I'm not totally affiliated with the party, uh, and I've got my own reasons behind that. And I explained that to you while we were in, while you were down in Tucson. I explained that to you a little bit there. But the philosophies and the ideas about it are really what draw me. And so my view on that is I try to bring that out towards, whatever party I decide to be working with at the time. I'm still pushing those libertarian ideas. I work primarily in civil law, so I don't do any criminal matters. I do civil contract property matters. I don't consider myself, what you invited me to talk about today, I wouldn't consider myself necessarily an expert in that particular field. We'd be
We
talking
can
a little
talk
bit.
about whatever too. Whatever, wherever it goes, it's all good.
No, that's fine. The legislative process as it stands, there's a lot of people out there that would be, very good experts. In fact, I've got family members that would probably be able to give you a very good rundown because they happen to have been in different state legislatures. But what I feel, what I would kind of be talking about would be, something that you and I talked about is how does just a regular person go about influencing the legislative process? And that's something that I feel like I've got a little bit of experience on. Uh, yeah.
That's good. Good introduction. And you wear good shoes. You have a good shoes. Do you have more good
I've
shoes
got
than that?
plenty of shoes. Yeah, I admit that as far as that goes, I might go a little bit overboard on that. I've got my,
There's no such thing as overboard with shoes. You've seen my wall. You're like, no, it's all good. Well, I don't know if you've seen it. I haven't covered up, but yeah, there's a literal whole wall of shoes surrounding me right now. So.
okay.
No, it's funny because I saw you sitting in at the when it was Jeremy and Dave talking, And I noticed, I saw your shoes right away because you were like sitting over there. I was like, oh, that guy's got cool shoes on. And then we ended up meeting later. I was like, oh, that's the cool shoes guy. Like, awesome.
I did pick those ones out specifically. Those are the shoes that I normally get the most compliments on when I'm dressed up. And I thought those would be good shoes to wear for that particular day. So
that's great. Did you enjoy your day? Because you just came for the one day. Did you?
I did. Yeah. I missed, I wasn't able to go on Saturday. I know Saturday, and honestly, I guess since I'm not an official party member, Saturday was primarily where they were doing a lot of the party stuff. They were electing delegates and stuff like that. And so not a party member. I wouldn't have had a vote. Wouldn't have mattered. But coming down on Sunday, I mean, it was fun. It was fun. It was good to meet people. I love meeting the people that I've interacted with online. I'm glad that you were able to come down from Colorado, even, a lot of the local people that I've seen. And then there's people that I didn't even realize were from Arizona that I've interacted with, that I was able to meet with, you talked with Keith yesterday. I didn't know Keith was from Arizona.
Me either. I saw him. I was like, oh my God, Keith. I loved it. It was so fun. And you stayed for the comedy show Sunday night, or did you leave before that?
No, I left right afterwards.
That's right.
Yeah, so I didn't get into any of the late night mischief.
We were wild. That it was very wild both nights, unfortunately for my body, but like it was fun. I just passed out on Sunday night. I was like out.
Yeah, and apparently, I mean, I thought I might have been the only one. I got, I got home late that night. Woke up Monday because Monday, it was a holiday, so I had a few things I wanted to get done, and I just was going up and down the stairs in my house, and I was just so exhausted, and I was like, I don't understand what's going on. So I don't know if it was, the corona or not, but apparently there was a handful of people that ended up getting sick. But
the Jeremy Todd variant. Jeremy thinks he may have been patient zero. Just like, I didn't get it, and I was next to him all that, or for a while, and I'm like, I didn't catch anything. But then I'm always kind of fucking exhausted, and I was hungover the next day anyway. So I'm like, I don't know. But I haven't felt sick, so whatever. I was like, I didn't kiss the right people if I didn't get sick. So I guess I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. Hey. But I mean, again, if that was the worst of it for normally healthy people that go, you end up being sick for a day or two and you get over it. I didn't get tested. I can't tell you for sure what it was, and I don't intend on getting tested, but
that's the same for me. In September 2020, I knew I was around someone who had tested positive, and 3 days later, I had a runnier nose than normal and kind of felt my body, fighting something, but that was it. And then I had weird taste stuff, but I'm like, whatever, I don't care. That wasn't even sick to me, and I didn't get tested either. So I have no idea, but I'm guessing with the taste stuff, it was it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know the way they kind of do these things. So, back in October, my wife had a baby. So when you're going into the hospital for certain things, they want you to have a COVID test. I don't really know why. It's not like they're going to stop her from having, you've got COVID. We're going to make sure that baby doesn't.
Keep it in.
Yeah.
Keep that thing in there.
But they wanted her to have a COVID test. So she went and got a COVID test, tested negative, whatever. It's fine. As the father, who was also going to be present in the room during delivery, I didn't have to get tested. I was going to be around everybody, all the same people. I was going to be around the baby, all of the doctors, and my wife, but I didn't have to be tested. Just my wife had to be tested.
Science.
Yeah, Science. None of it makes any sense to me. And
oh wow. It doesn't make any sense. And then that's why I didn't want to test it all, because I don't want to be a number or anything. Now you can do the at-home test, I suppose, and you don't have to turn it. But I still don't even care. I don't care. No. I just don't care.
I mean, what's the difference? Then Okay, but I knew I was sick, or I knew I felt sick. Does it matter?
And I knew to not go around people when I'm sick anyways. That's normal.
Yeah. So I just, you're right. I don't understand the point of it unless you're, I mean, unless they're like specifically treating you for it. Hey, I'm so sick. I'm in the hospital. We need to know what we're treating you for. If they're going to try to give you the different antibodies, which apparently now are no longer approved.
Yeah.
But
it's such a scary pandemic that like all treatments have to be questioned and pulled off the shelves and politicized. Yeah. That's how scary of a pandemic it is.
Yeah, exactly. There's only, I guess, preventative treatments of the shots. But if you actually still get it, despite the shot or not, we're not going to allow you to take anything for it. You can't take, hydroxychloroquine or the other one that I guess we're not supposed to say either. The
horse paste.
Yeah. And now they're taking away the mononuclear antibodies as well. So they don't want treatments. They only want the shot. But again, the shot is, at best, we can say preventative. At best.
Doesn't seem to be working too great for everyone I know that has it. So.
No, exactly, yeah. And so I'm going to say, but if you still get it, if you get the shot and you still get it, or you don't get the shot and you get it, they don't want to be able to, they don't want to treat you. I guess they're just hoping everybody at that point dies. And it seems like, again, at best, 1 to 2 days down. That, I mean, max.
For most people. Yeah. Most healthy-ish people. Yeah. So slight. All right. Before we jump into the legislative stuff, I have to shout out Justin. Do you know Justin O'Donnell? I don't know if you follow him online, but this is his just say hey to Justin. Hey, Joe. Hey, Aussie owner. All right.
Well, nice. No, I don't think I know him, but good. I was going to say, I know that a lot of these things.
He's in New Hampshire. He's in New Hampshire.
Okay. Yeah.
You have pants on right now?
Pants. Yeah, I do have pants on. Yes. Yeah. They're not.
Well, if you're going in the office.
I've not. But yeah, for the most part, I haven't worn a tie for the whole day in quite a long time. If they require me to get on video, I do actually have a dress shirt and a tie that I can throw on really quick. And then, they get my torso for that. And so that's fine. But otherwise, I mean, on a lot of days, I'm in a t-shirt and it's pretty great. I will say that's one plus of this is I haven't had to dress up, although I've also gotten out of the habit. So I've got like 10 shirts down at the dry cleaner that I just keep forgetting to pick up because I don't need them.
Is there any in court stuff right now? Like, are you going to, have they opened it up at all?
No, they have. So I haven't had to go to court, and the courts have actually encouraged the attorneys who are in a lot of court that they would rather us not be there personally. Their theory is if one of us gets sick and we don't know it and we continue to travel all these courts, then we'll be getting everybody sick. I guess, whatever. I don't, And so they're not asking us, but the courts are open for other people. And so I've had to do hearings where I've been appearing remotely, but then the other side, the defendant on the other side, if they're represented by an attorney or not, sometimes will be in the court physically. And then obviously for criminal matters, some of that stuff, they've always kind of had to be open. And so I've always kind of been surprised by some of the courts that have actually just shut down completely. I feel like that's a constitutional problem, not allowing people access to the court.
Yeah, they don't get their day in court then, right? Yep. Or like it's put off, I suppose. Or
yeah, I did have one court. So down in Tucson, actually, they scheduled a trial, and the judge at we had a pretrial hearing, and that was that was telephonic or video, whatever it happened to be. And the judge specifically said, "Okay, this is going to be the trial date, and it's going to be in person. You need to be here in court." So that day I got up, I put on my suit, I drove down to Tucson, and I got to the building, and the security refused to allow me entrance. They said, no, nobody can come into the building. I said, judge specifically said I needed to be here. I have a hearing that I have to be at. And they said, no, you have to appear virtually. Here's the call-in information. Here's the stuff. So I went to my car. I opened up my computer. I, turned on the Wi-Fi on there and logged in. And the judge was like, are you in your car? And I'm like, yeah, I didn't have anywhere else to be. You told me I need to be here in person. They won't let me in the building. So I'm doing the trial from my car. He's like, oh, yeah, sorry about that.
Good old government. That's what's been scary about a lot of it, though, is like half of it, it's all the government people not showing up. Like even our public health departments, they do everything over Zoom. Everything's over Zoom. It's like, what are they trying to hide stuff at some point? At some point, is there like, or they're just trying to get out of work, I suppose, too. That's probably a lot of it. But.
Some of that. I mean, and look, if you're able to work from home, if you're able to do that, that's great. You cut down on a lot of commute time. Get up a little bit later if you don't have to, I mean, I know I'm not, Los Angeles by any stretch, but Phoenix does get pretty bad traffic. And so if I didn't have to come in, if I wasn't making my staff come in and had to come in, hey, that would cut off, 45 minutes each way in my commute time. That'd be nice. But I just, you lose that personal touch. You really do. Dealing with people face to face, in person. I think it'll be something that as a society will regret losing. I mean, I don't want us to all turn into, jump into the metaverse, just start wearing our VR helmets all the way around and never actually have personal contact with anybody. I'd rather not live in that world.
Yeah, I'm not ready for that. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you want to just kind of like start kind of like, I don't know if you prepared anything as a lawyer, but like.
No. So like I said, I've worked with essentially 3 different organizations when attempting to change laws or introduce a law. Some of those organizations have been larger than the others. And when you work with a large organization, sometimes that is a little bit easier. But if you're just looking at an individual, someone like just me or just you, or, a handful of people that says, hey, we see something that needs to be fixed. We see a problem that we think we can fix in the law. How do you go about doing that? So I don't want to, I'll go into a little bit of a dummy down version. I'm not going to be Schoolhouse Rock, how does a bill become a law? But I'll dummy it down a little bit. And not federally, because whatever. So every single state in the union, except for one, has what we call a bicameral bicameral legislature, which means there are 2 houses. In Arizona, and in, I want to say probably every other state. I'm not going to, go out on a limb and say that because I just don't know for sure, but we have the House and the Senate. And so those are your 2 bodies. Nebraska is actually the one that doesn't have bicameral. They just have a unicameral, which means they just have 1 body. I don't really know how their process works on that. But they only have, I guess, their House of Representatives. They don't have a Senate. Now, a bill is typically introduced either in the House or in the Senate. Federally, there are certain rules that say, hey, this bill has to be introduced to the House. So like anything that has to do with money federally has to be introduced in the House of Representatives. It can't be introduced in the Senate. It doesn't really matter that much because it does eventually go to the other side. But you typically have to have a bill sponsor. So you have one member of the House or one member of the Senate say, hey, I've got a bill that I would like to propose. It gets submitted. And then depending on if they're in the House or in the Senate, it gets the Speaker of the House or the Senate President will take all of the bills that have been introduced in their particular House, and then they will assign them to committees. Since I'm an attorney, most of the stuff that I end up dealing with always gets assigned to the Judiciary Committee. I'm far more familiar with the Judiciary Committee than I am with the other committees, because that's where most of the stuff that I care about, most of the stuff that I deal with, ends up being assigned to. So you have, so let's just jump. Let's say we have, the House. So you have the, so that way I'm not trying to go, oh, whether it's this or this. You understand that it works both ways on this. So the Speaker of the House takes the bill that's been proposed by somebody, so a member of the House, and assigns it to the Judiciary Committee. The Judiciary Committee is chaired by a member of the House, and so they're in charge of that committee. And they will get a list of bills that say, these bills have all been assigned to your committee. At that point, the chair of the committee has actually a great deal of power, because they decide what bills actually are going to be heard on what day. And they can actually just table bills. They can just say, I don't care. I don't want to hear this bill at all. And it will never get out of committee. But if it does get into committee, then they call it. The sponsor of the bill will typically speak that day and say, in the committee, and say, hey, this is the bill. This is what it's supposed to do, and this is why I like it. And then the committee will also allow for other people to testify about that bill. You can, testify for it or against it. You can say, hey, I like, and generally those are just, again, people like you and me who are paying attention, or who have people tell them about these things. And then they say, hey, that's something I care about. I want to testify about that. Or I really hate that bill. I want to testify. I want to make sure it doesn't move forward. And so they will put their name on the list. Here in Arizona, it's all electronic. So you have a request to speak feature on their website where you can actually log in and say, hey, this is a bill I care about. I would really like to speak about this bill. And so the day that it's heard in committee, you actually log in, check in that you're there as well. Last couple of years, again, it's all been virtual, but in general, you actually have to be there. You have to show up at the legislature if you want to talk about the bill. So after the sponsor introduces it, they will then allow for other people to testify about it. The committee members will all be able to ask those people and the sponsor different questions about the bill. And they will kind of have a little bit of a discussion or a debate if they care to. But sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just go, oh, it's a bill. Okay, this is one that nobody really cares about. And then at the end of it, the committee chair will call for a vote, and then the committee votes on it. And if it passes the committee, then it gets sent down. It gets sent to the main floor of the House. At that point, there's also a waiting game, but then there's the first read of the bill on the House. And sometimes there'll be a vote on the first read, sometimes not. But if there happens to be a vote on the first read of the bill and it passes the House, and again, it's just by simple majority. It doesn't have to be, same in the committee. If there's 10 members of the committee, you need 6. And then in the House, it would pass by simple majority, at which point then it gets transferred to the Senate. At that point, it again basically starts the process over. It's passed the House, it passed the House committee, it passed the House, now it goes to the Senate, goes to the Senate committee, then it goes to the Senate floor. Then if it passes that again, hey, then guess what? The bill goes on its way to the governor's desk, and then the governor can either veto it, sign it, or do nothing, at least in Arizona. If the governor does nothing on it in Arizona, then it becomes law. The governor has so many days, and off the top of my head, I can't remember. But if the governor doesn't act on it, then it becomes a law, and it becomes effective like 45 days after the session ends. So that's kind of the schoolhouse rock version of the legislative process. So the question then is so like I said, I've been involved in like 3 different organizations. 2 of them have much deeper pockets. They're big organizations. They're kind of well known. And so when they have an issue, they have a lobbyist, and all of the legislators know that this lobbyist works for this organization, and they know where that money came from and everything else. And so they typically will take those meetings. But then this other group of people that I worked with, we had an issue that we wanted to get passed. It wasn't being taken up by any other big organization. It was like a group of 10 of us. There was 10 of us, and we said, we have an issue and we want the law to address it. Now, without really getting into the stupid details about what that issue was, it came about because we'd all been practicing law a specific way, and we just assumed, hey, this is how it always is. Then there was a appeal court decision that came out and said, the way you guys have been doing it isn't specific in the law. And so because it's not specific in the law, you can't do it that way anymore. We thought, oh, that's kind of stupid. I mean, it's kind of been the practice for 50, 60 years, but it wasn't specific in the law. So we said, all right, well, we need to change that to be specific in the law. And we talked to a couple of different organizations, some of the bigger groups, and they just didn't really care. They just didn't want to take it up. So the 10 of us kind of got together and said, okay, what can we do? We need to do something about this. Well, what I want to say on that is, one person, you're like, can one person make a difference? The reality on that is no, one person can't make a difference. It's just not, you just can't. But 10 of you might be able to, because creating law, changing law, creating a bill or anything like that, it costs money. It just does. I mean, and that is the dirty part of politics. It costs money. And so 10 of us got together and said, okay, we're going to form ourselves a PAC, a political action committee. It's going to be very limited scope. Basically, we've got one purpose, and that is to change this law so that we can continue practicing the way that we've always been practicing. Now, all of us were familiar with the legislative process, but we weren't down there every single day. And so what you have to do at that point is you have to hire a lobbyist. That's the other dirty word of politics, is lobbyist. But you know what? Lobbyists are ultimately necessary if you want to affect any sort of change. And the reason behind that is because that's what they do. That's where they are. They're down there every day. They know all of the people. They know the ways that they would vote, their proclivities. And I mean, they're the ones that have their phone numbers. They are the ones that know what to do. And so we had to hire a lobbyist. And lobbyists, sometimes, they aren't necessarily cheap, depending on what you want them to do. For us, we thought, hey, look, this isn't that big of an issue, but nonetheless, lobbyists said, yeah, but look, this is the process that we're going to have to go through. And we started this process early. Just about every state right now is probably in session right now in the legislature. So if you're thinking today, hey, I'll go hire a lobbyist and I'll go see if I can get something changed, it's probably too late. It's just the facts. All of the bills have been introduced. They do have some striker bills kind of towards the end of the mid to end of the session that maybe certain things can change. But if you've got an issue that's important to you, it's probably too late. Even if you hired a lobbyist, it's probably too late. You've got to get this ball rolling much, much earlier. And so, yeah, we pulled our money together. We formed our PAC so that way we could hire our lobbyist. Lobbyists in the state of Arizona, I would imagine that's probably similar in other states, but I'm going to speak to what I know about. In the state of Arizona, you actually have to be registered with the state to be a lobbyist. And so if you're going to stand up in front of the House, Senate, or any of the committees and say, I'm here representing such and such organization, you have to be a registered lobbyist. I could go down and say, hey, I'm here on behalf of myself. That's fine. But if I'm here on behalf of my company, I'm here on behalf of this organization, I'm here on behalf, you have to be a registered lobbyist. It's kind of I don't know, it's one of those things that doesn't necessarily make sense. Even if you're like, hey, it's my company, I'm the president of the company, I want to speak for my company. You can't do it. You have to be a registered lobbyist. But you can speak on your behalf as president of the company. So that's one of the reasons why, that's another reason why ultimately getting a lobbyist is important on that. So our issue on that was, we said, okay, now we've got a lobbyist. We've engaged a lobbyist. We said, this is what we want to have happen. This is what we need to have happen. And they said, okay, well, you got to get a sponsor. And we're like, well, okay, who would you recommend? And they said, well, your issue again falls into, the area that would be the Judiciary Committee. And so it'd be good to get somebody on the Judiciary Committee to sponsor your bill. And actually it would be even better, not just to get somebody on the Judiciary Committee, but the chairman of the Judiciary Committee to sponsor your bill. Because if the chair is going to sponsor your bill is definitely going to be heard. He's not going to say, it's my bill, but I don't care, I'm not going to listen to it. And so your bill is going to get heard if you can get the chair of that committee to sponsor the bill. And so we were lucky enough that we actually were able to get the chair of the committee to sponsor the bill. Now, the way you get the legislators interested and involved varies. You can try to sell them on it from an intellectual level, or you can donate to their campaign. I mean, that's the other dirty part about politics is sometimes in order to get a seat at the table, you got to give them money. And so you donate to their campaign. And then they say, oh, you're a donor. Let me clear my schedule so we can meet. In this particular matter, I'm fairly confident I donated to his campaign, but we donated to a lot of different people's campaigns during that time process. And sometimes that's just so they see you, they know who you are, you get in front of them, they hold a fundraiser and you say, hey, I support you and here's some money and this is who I am. And so they kind of remember you when you vote. It's not necessarily buying votes, although that's what a lot of people view that as. I mean, if you're donating money, it's viewed as buying votes. I'd love to say
system we're in. It's the system we're in. So
exactly. I mean, you'd love to be able to say, hey, that's just not how politics should work. I'm here to talk about reality. This is what I always try to say is, look, I love the libertarian values and I believe that they would work perfectly. But also, I also have to work within the system that we are in. And so I like to say that, my eyes are a little bit open. We try to work within the system because we don't live in a complete law-free system. I mean, I know that's not the libertarian position, is law-free, but the anarchist position might be that. So, like I said, if you get enough people, then you get the lobbyist, you get your committee chair, you get those people. Our process took a little bit more time than we would have liked. Part of that had to do with we did a lot of groundwork in 2019 for the 2020 session, and COVID hit and everything shut down. I mean, so we had a bill that was ready to get passed in 2020, and it had actually passed the House committee, it had passed the House, it had been transferred to the Senate, and then at that point, basically the legislature shut down out of fear of COVID, and nothing really moved forward at that point. And so we had to basically start all over because we had lost our committee chair, we had lost our sponsor, we had lost a lot. And so our financial involvement in this basically doubled because of COVID. How that stuff, it just drives me, makes me insane how everybody panicked about this. But hey,
we're still panicking 2 years later. So
yeah. But for the most part, I will say this. I mean, they're still panicky, but at least they're in session. At least they're there. I think some states are probably still just appearing virtually. They're going, we're still too scared. So nobody meet in person. Everyone just meet virtually. Here in Arizona, they've kind of said, all right, well, we're going to meet in person. I don't know if the legislature themselves are having testing requirements and honestly, I'm not sure about what they're doing as far as mask requirements go. I had another organization that they wanted me to testify on a bill on Thursday. And I was like, hey, last year it was all testifying virtually. Are we going back to normal? Am I going to have to show up? I was going to have to move some stuff on my schedule. So fortunately, somebody else is handling that. So I don't know. I assume it's going back to, a semblance of normality with that. What we had to do, like I said, that was just the start of it, was engaging the lobbyist, getting your bill sponsor. We met with Arizona has a Republican majority, and I don't think we have any libertarians in. And so we have a Republican majority, Democrat minority in the House and in the Senate, and so our bill, what we needed to get was just the Republicans on board. Now, it's always easier if you can get some of the Democrats on board as well. If it is a non-confrontational, if it can just kind of go through without, rocking the boat too much, that's the best case scenario. And we kind of felt our bill was like that. Not every bill happens to be like that. And there ends up being a lot of fights on some really silly issues. But we met with every Republican member of the Judiciary Committee. I met, when I say the organization, the 10 people that I was involved with on this. And I personally met with probably about half of them. And then we met with certain key Democrats as well to just see what their concerns might be about this. And so this was a lot of the groundwork that that is done even leading up to the session. This isn't even when the legislature's in session. This was in July and August and October and all throughout that time, just meeting with all these different legislators. So that way, when the bill gets presented, you've pretty much already got a good idea of how it's going to go. And if you have a little bit more controversy, if there's, if there's other issues where they say, because you may have been the part of the group that said, hey, this is the bill, this is what we want. But once you turn it over to the legislator's hands, you sometimes lose control because they can go, oh, I really like this, but you know what? We should change it so it says this, and we should change it so it says this and does this as well. And the idea that you may have completely gone out the window. If you have a decent enough lobbyist and your bill sponsor is on board enough with you, they can ultimately, kill the bill if it gets a little bit too, far away from what you initially intended. But not always. Sometimes you introduce the bill, you just lose control of it, and it does something that you didn't want or didn't intend and just moves forward because the committee had these ideas and then it gets onto the floor of the House and then they have these ideas and then it gets to this. Everyone's got their own idea. And look, everybody who sits in the legislature likes to think that they're one of the smartest people out there, and they know how to fix every problem. The best ones that we work with are the ones that kind of say, look, this isn't my area. This is your area. This is what you do. This is, you're the expert in this field. And so I'm going to defer to you as to how best this bill should, what it should say and what it should say, and what it should do. But like I said, there's always other competing groups as well. So one of the other organizations I'm with has a fairly large group that kind of sits on the other side. Every time this organization would propose a bill, there is going to be opposition. It doesn't matter what the bill says. It can be the friendliest bill in the world. There's going to be opposition to it. And at that point, there's a lot more work to be done in session as well. You've got to make sure that it's moving along through committee. If it gets out of committee, like I said, there's different readings on the House floor as well. It can get kicked back to the committee after it's on the House floor. If the House says, hey, we don't really like this, but we're okay with this. If we can change this, let's kick it back to the committee and have them discuss that further. Then they'll amend it and kick it back. The only way you actually get that bill into law is you've got to have the same version pass the House and pass the Senate. If it gets through the House and the Senate changes it, then they have to kick it back to the House, and then the House will adjust it, and or then the House has to vote on what the changes that the Senate made. If the House doesn't like the changes that the Senate made, then the bill dies again. So it's sometimes you think it's almost remarkable how anything actually gets passed with all the different fingers in the pot, knowing that you've got to get in Arizona 31 House members and 16 Senate members to all agree on the exact same thing. And then you've got to hope that the governor isn't going to get someone in his ear saying, hey, I know this passed, but this is bad for this and this and this, and so you should veto it. So I mean, I know, when we talked, last week, you indicated that you were working on with the committee and you wanted to.
There's we have a single issue pack started, but that's about all we've got so far.
So there you go, single issue pack. It's great. I mean, I don't know how much traction you're going to be able to get on it this term. And if you don't already have a bill folder open, and then I skipped it.
We don't even have money. So
yeah,
that's where we're at right now.
I
think we have like
I skipped the other
$300.
So yeah, you've got to get everybody that's involved in this pack to donate to get some money. I mean, you can go talk to a lobbyist and say, hey, this is our single issue. This is what we want, and start getting quotes. And they'll probably come back and say, oh, okay, if we want to get that done, that's going to cost us $40,000. And so if you want to sign a contract for us for $40,000, this is what we'll do. And
I don't even know, because the whole thing is we have this licensing regulatory thing here, and so we're just trying to fight the healthcare mandates that they put out, which even my real estate license, the law licenses, everybody's around under the same thing. But I'm like, it's so confusing to me. I'm just like, how are we going to even, how do we even, I don't know. I was pretty much brought on for the rah-rah shishkamba, but to get it out there. But then the girl who started, she's moving now. And so now we're trying to figure out what to do. And I still would like to try it. Like I've told you, I don't what you're saying, although our friend Justin, so he's in New Hampshire, and he's saying he was a bill entered, but New Hampshire, that's New Hampshire. It's probably did it. He tracked down 9 co-sponsors. He made it bipartisan. It's a health bill, it looks like he's doing. But I know Colorado is probably a lot like Arizona, where it's just gigantic and there's a ton of people. And I don't even know
Yeah.
anymore.
Well, and like I said,
I
I mean, there's possibilities.
I'm glad you explained that like that.
Yeah. I mean, and there's absolutely possibilities of getting stuff changed after session started and stuff like that. I mean, it happens. I just know that for most of my issues, the stuff that I've been working on, if I haven't started it at least by October, it's just not happening. I mean, because one of the things that we have to deal with as well is once we say, hey, this is what we want, this is what we think will be the changes, these are the changes in the law, we write that up and give it to the bill sponsor. Then they have to go to an attorney that they call legislative counsel. So an attorney that works for the legislature. And then he goes through and says, okay, I've got to make sure that this doesn't conflict with any other existing law. And then he basically writes up the language. And then he'll kick it back to you and you say, okay, we want to change this. We don't like how this is a little bit too vague. And then you kind of send it back. But the reality is you don't even get to write the law. You just get to have the idea. And then once legislative counsel writes the law, then you can start making changes and inputs on that. But I mean, just regular people don't have the power to do that. And it does, it costs money. And so, yeah, your issue, you should be able to get more people on board though. I mean, you've got the single issue PAC, but there should be other people that, the fighting the mandates. I mean, there should be other people, other organizations that say, yeah, we absolutely agree with that. There shouldn't be, vaccine mandates or anything, anything else on that. And sometimes also that helps with the hiring of a lobbyist because they'll be able to kind of build that coalition. They'll kind of be able to go, do you know what? I work with this group and this is something that they would care about as well. Let me talk to them about it and see if they'd be willing to help out. Because you're right. I mean, without knowing all of the fingers in the pot, it's very difficult to just do it on your own. And
but honestly, I don't even know like who controls DORA. Like, I know it's a board, so it's like, do we have laws that control our licensing board? And like, it's just like it's so much to know.
Yeah, well, there should be. Yeah, I mean, I would think that it probably is. It's probably a function of the executive branch of the governor's office there, but the legislature has authorized them to be able to do this, or more likely hasn't authorized them to do it, and they just felt that they can take on that responsibility. That's why all these mandates, around the country have been struck down. I mean, even the one in New York State, that was just yesterday. They struck down a mask mandate. Their court said, no, you don't have the power to do this. The legislature didn't give you that authority, so you don't have the power to do that. I mean, fighting your mandates can go about that twofold, and there's a legislative process to basically say, we're specifically not allowing it, or you have to fight it in courts.
That's what sucks, because they just do it, and then it's so much work to undo it. Like, and they just do it.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you so President Biden, people, so President Trump was impeached 2 different times on issues that were whatever, agree with them, disagree with them, doesn't really matter. President Biden has had 2 separate times that I think he has willfully exceeded his constitutional authority and knowingly done so. And one of them was something that actually does affect me. It was the eviction moratorium. So there was a number of different judicial challenges that happened to that. And then it got up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, look, the CDC likely doesn't have this authority, but they have already indicated that it's going to end. So we're just not going to act on it right now. And we're going to let it die. And that was supposed to end in last July, I think. And then President Biden was asked about that, and he said, look, the courts have basically been pretty clear. I don't have the authority to extend it any further. And then He decided to extend it further anyway. And the CDC issued a new moratorium that was going to be for another 3 months on that. And so the president right then and there said, I don't have the authority, but I'm going to do it anyway. To me, that's not upholding the Constitution. That was an impeachable offense right there. He is basically showing his complete disregard for what the Constitution was and what his authority was. So, and I think he did that also with the vaccine mandates. I think he knew that he didn't have the authority, and yet he was trying to push that out regardless anyway. And so those are two issues that I think his utter disregard for his constitutional powers are impeachable offenses. But the Democrats control the House, so they're not going to do that. And even if the Republicans take back the House and a majority in the Senate in the fall, they're not going to do it either. So it doesn't matter.
I know nothing matters. Justin said we need to move to New Hampshire because that's where we can have more impact. That is huge, but when they were doing all the Zoom stuff, only the Republicans were showing up. So then they got like a super majority because the Dems weren't attending the virtual committee hearings and stuff. That's funny. That's what you just gotta do. You just gotta wait these people out, I guess, or just showing up. But
yeah, no, I'll say appreciate Thomas Massey. When it was the CARES Act bill, 2 years ago, and they all wanted to just vote on it remotely, and he said no, we don't have that. We have to show up, and he forced everybody to show up for that vote. And he got a lot of flack for it from both sides.
He literally was killing them. He was literally killing them by making them show up,
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, crazy.
So, like I said, I'm not the expert, but I've got.
No, but you have experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what matters. It's just different experiences, and you've actually done some stuff in there, so.
Yeah, I will say, that one bill, I'm pretty proud of. I was like, I know there was, 10 of us involved in it, but I took a lot of the legwork. I was like, particularly the first year, more guys donated a little bit more money than I did. I was on par the second year, so I didn't invest as much as some of them did financially, but I put in a lot of legwork, and I met with a lot of people. I testified in both committees. So I was pretty proud of it. I was pretty happy with, I look at that particular provision of law and kind of go, I take ownership on that. And again, it's an issue that absolutely nobody else out there cares about. That's fine.
It's all good if you feel proud of it and to put your skills to use, and you learn the process more, and you probably made friends with some of the people, and that's why I'm like, maybe I should just start going down and meeting all the legislative people. Just be like, hey, I'm Forest Mommy.
Absolutely. Well,
wine and dine them.
Particularly if they're in session, if you've got a day to kill and you just want to show up, if they let you, I don't know what Colorado's rules are, but if they let you, you could just, there's nothing that stops you from just showing up and just watching. You can sit in the gallery and just watch. You don't have to, I don't care about any of these bills. I just want to be there. Then you go out in the hallway and you can introduce yourself to, different lobbyists or legislators that are walking around. A lot of them aren't going to want to hear pitches right then. A lot of legislators.
No, I would just be charming and make them like me. That would be my first thing. Is that terrible?
Hey, that gets you so far though. That really does.
just with blonde hanging out. I'll wear tall boots. I'll be super tall. It's a super important thing.
Absolutely.
You have to be honest about these things sometimes,
you use the tools that you're given to you,
Exactly.
For me, I wasn't blessed with that one. That's not going to be the way I win them over. Hey,
well, you have brains. You can actually use your brains. I only sometimes have brains, so.
Oh, I've seen enough of your contents to know that
there's something going on in there. There's a little something
Yeah.
ticking in there every now and then. So, oh well, we're almost at an hour. Now I guess that's pretty good. You explained the process really good.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's certain look. You give me a topic, I could probably just rattle on for an hour. Hopefully, I wasn't too repetitive. I know that sometimes that gets happen where you go, yeah, I need to talk for an hour. Let me just repeat myself over and over again. And I hope my hands weren't too distracting because I feel like I talked a lot with my hands.
That's okay. I'm Italian. I always talk like if I'm actually talking, my hands are going, everything's going, so it's all good. Well, I'm glad we got to meet last weekend in person. That was fun, or 2 weekends ago now, or something.
Yeah, about a week and a half ago. No, that was. I mean, like I said, that was. It's sometimes hard for me to get away. I mean, as I told you. I mentioned I had a baby.
You got a buttload of kids,
October, but that's not my only one. Yeah, I've got 5 of them. So sometimes it's a little harder to get away. But I was able to find the time that day. It was fun. Like I said, it's great meeting people. It's great, like just celebrating in common cause, right?
Yeah, I loved especially like when we were all hanging out in my room before the show. It was like, okay, we had a lawyer, an electrician, a sex worker, real estate agent. Like everyone's so different. We were just it was all honest. No one was judging anybody for it. Like it's just good to be around those kind of people where you can just like talk,
Yeah.
I mean, loved it.
When you've got the mutual respect for the individual, for the person they are. And it's not their label. It's not what they do. It's not, how they identify. It's just they're a person. And you've got that mutual respect. That's how mountains are moved, right?
Hell yeah. That's great. Why don't we end it right on that? Because that was really good.
All right. Well, it was good talking to you.
Thank you, Thayne, for coming on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you have any plugs. I know obviously your Twitter's up there for everyone to see. I don't know if you have a YouTube or anything.
I do not. I've long thought about it. I thought, hey, should I get a YouTube channel? Should I start a podcast? And one of these days, maybe I will. And if I ever do, I'll announce it on Twitter. Otherwise, that's where I'm at. If you
have to actually work.
Isn't as serious. Yeah, most of my Twitter definitely
work and take care of a family. Right. No, that's good though. It's good that you have like a serious side and a fun side. So
yeah,
I appreciate it. All right. Well, have a good rest of your day.
You too, Forest Mommy. Talk to you later.
Bye, everybody.